Hello, 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 everybody. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing amazing. I'm doing great. Sometimes you just have to decide that you're going to be great no matter what's going on around you. And today is one of those days for me. No matter what, I'm going to be good. I'm going to be great. So that's what space I'm in right now. I hope that you are as well. I would like to welcome you to week 33. Week 33 of Leadership Live 2021. Can you believe we are in the 33rd week of the year? Honey, you've made it. Welcome. Welcome to week 33. I hope that you are as excited as I am. And for those of you all who are like, who in the world are you, lady? And what is this? Everyone, this is Leadership Live, and on Leadership Live is a sharing of journeys. In 2019, I did this completely alone. I did this completely by myself. For 52 weeks, I shared my journey. And that journey, it just has been an amazing one. I have been through so many things leadership-wise, and I have been so excited to be able to share them. Well, at the end of 2020, God tapped me on my shoulder and said, Renita, you need to go back. And I said, oh, I don't have to fit 2 more weeks to anything to talk about. And God said, it's not about you, it's about others. And you're going to share with others. You're going to bring other people on. So that is what has happened. For 32 weeks, we've had amazing guests. And I promise you, here in week 33 is going to be no different. I already know you're going to fall in love with our guest because I did, even when she was a little girl. And now she's all grown up. But before I bring her into the screen, I am Dr. Renita, and I am an educational leadership strategist, which means I love, love, love to work with aspiring and growing leaders to help them become more authentic in their leadership, to empower their fellowship, not fellowship, their fellowship. Yeah, I made that up. We're going to work on trademark pending and all that kind of things. And I also know that those two things combined will help them make a greater impact on the world. And what leader doesn't want to make a great impact on the world? I am also a veteran educator, having served grades kindergarten through college. I am also the founder of the Refining Life, a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide you with experiences so that you can lead a more positive and productive life through the refining of your mindset and getting down to those purest forms of who you are. I am also a wife and mother of 4. I birthed 2 kids and I own 2 kids. And through that journey, I was able to compose and write the book, Stepmom, Trials, Tribulations, and Triumphs, editions 1 and 2. I am also the authoress of While You Are Sleeping, the Perfect Children of All Ages book. Yes, it is. It's a great book. I am also a speaker, a keynote. I am a mentor, a mentee. I am a minister, and I am a queen. And not only am I queen, I'm a queen and I'm a queen. I'm a queen and I am a queen. I am the current reigning Mrs. Black North Carolina, as well as the Elite 7 Charms North Carolina Ultimate Grand Supreme. And I love it all. So welcome, everyone. As I told you, this young lady, I'm going to call her a young lady forever. She probably 95. I'm still going to be calling her a young lady because I just remember her as a dear sweetheart, but she is a fantastic, phenomenal grown woman now. So let me bring this fabulous young lady into the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Quierra McDowell.
Hey.
And the crowd goes,
Woo.
one day I'm gonna have a studio audience, and they're going, yes. But I don't have that yet. But when I get it, girl, I'm bringing you back.
Yes, yes.
I love Quierra.
Hello, Dr. Renita. I'm
How
so
are you doing?
I'm great. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing fabulous, and I am so happy to have you here with me tonight. And what I'm gonna do, okay, you all, I could go on about Kiera, but I'm gonna let her tell you what she wants to tell you, and then we'll talk about some other stuff later. So let me take a step out. Go ahead, Kiera. Tell them who you are.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Quierra McDowell, and I am a lot of things. So I am a cosmetologist by trade. I am the owner of Refresh Hair Studio LLC. I am an author. I am a wife. I am a pastor. I am the wife to an amazing husband, Kendall McDowell, and I we're still newlyweds, so that's fun to still say, even though I pray that it will always be fun to say. I am the author of I Am, a 21-day journey to discovering the power of affirming your identity, which is a 21-day devotional for women of all ages. And every single day is an affirmation fueled by the word of God and us coming into the reality of who we are in God, who we are in Christ, and understanding that we are who God says that we are. I am also I also pastor with my husband, Revival Now Global Church, which is located in Greensboro, North Carolina. We are virtual now, but definitely believe in God for more. And so, yes, that's a little bit about me. I am a native of Burlington, North Carolina, small town country girl. I really actually grew up on the outskirts of Burlington, in the county. But yeah, I want to say that that's pretty much all I have to say about me, Dr. Renita. I love Dr. Renita. She has always been such an amazing voice in my life and such an amazing role model. So I'm happy to be here on Leadership Live with her.
Gotta bring us both back. There we go. Well, I am excited to have you with me. You all okay? So she is modest, but I will say she's the reason. Like, though this is not the hair that grew out of my scalp, but my hair is really this color right now. You all saw it some weeks ago, but then we had a lot going on in life. I had to put it away for a little bit. It's gonna come back out, but she's the reason why my hair is this color, because I can go to Quierra and say, Quierra, so I've had enough of this. Can we make it something else? And she'll say, let me analyze first, because she's not gonna do your hair and just do it because you wanted it done that way. Yeah. Let me analyze. Okay, now we can proceed. So I am grateful for her. I remember years ago, this was some years ago, and Quierra was in cosmetology school, and I went to her and I told her to cut my hair. She looked at me like I had 22 heads. She's like,
Oh my gosh.
but she cut it that day, and it was probably one of the best haircuts I have ever had in my entire life. And then I punked her until she cut it again. Some probably 2 years after that, my hair had grown really long and full, and I just had a baby and I had enough. I was like, here, if you don't cut this hair, she would not cut it when I was pregnant. She thought it was the hormones. And then I still wanted to cut afterwards, so she finally cut my hair yet again. I never wanted to grow my hair out of that cut until my kid she decided that I need to grow my hair again.
Oh,
but who knows? I might get it cut again. And if I do, I'm going straight to Quierra, because that's what I do.
Yes.
She makes my hair feel refreshed.
Ooh, that's
but
cool.
Quierra, you came to me with an incredible topic, and I want to know why you chose it. So tonight's topic is the compassionate leader. What is that about? Let's talk. What is the compassionate leader?
So, to be honest with you, I believe that a leader, just in general, should be a compassionate leader. I really started to think about what is leadership. When you asked me to be a part of this, I was like, okay, what can I talk about? Because I've never really been given, I've been given opportunities to speak, of course, and you are given free reign on the topic of choice. And for me, that's always hard. I love to talk and I love to have discussion, but it's always a little easier, when somebody already gives you something to talk about.
Right.
Immediately I thought about the compassionate leader. And so I began to think, and if I can just be honest, in this season of my life now, I'm really stepping into more leadership roles. Of course, it's pastoring. That's a huge leadership role. And for me, I've always kind of worked by myself. I have the luxury of working by myself or working with the team, and pretty much, being able to be in control of that. And so I've never really been in a lot of settings where I had to take on that position of leadership. Although I knew that it was something that was inside of me, I never really had to activate it. I never really had to operate out of that place of leadership. But one thing that I really felt was that if you just think about just think about a job, for instance, and you have managers, or you may have your boss, depending on how big or small the corporation or business is. And for everybody, the owner or the head boss is not somebody that you're directly connected with on a daily basis. So it may be a manager or a supervisor or whatever the case may be. And one thing that hit me was that in reality, when it comes to teams and things of that nature, the difference for me, one of the differences, there's many attributes, but one of the differences between just being a boss and being a leader is compassion. It
Mhm.
is that compassion is absolutely an attribute of a leader, because we understand that as a leader, there's so many different characteristics. There's so many different attributes. It doesn't always look the same for everybody, but I truly believe that in order to be an effective leader, we have to be compassionate leaders, because we have to be able to see people for who they are. We have to be able to extend ourselves in ways that other people may not have to extend themselves. We have to be able to take on other people's um, burdens in that moment, and share in each other's trials, share in each other's burdens. And we have to be able to do that as leaders, because of course, compassion and extending compassion, it builds a certain level of trust. It builds a certain level of honor and respect. And so I truly believe that in order to actually be an effective leader, and not just be a boss or someone who's calling the shots or someone who has authority or someone who's in control, compassion is the key to being that leader.
Mm. So, one, I agree with everything you're saying. Two, define compassion.
Okay. So for me, I'm not going to give you like Webster's dictionary or
No, no, I want the Kiki McDowell.
not the kicking out. Compassion to me is, immediately when I think about compassion, I think about sharing. I think about sharing in someone else's joy, sharing in someone else's suffering, sharing in every capacity with someone else, literally linking yourself up with another person. Compassion is being able to put on somebody else's shoes, being able to see past the person and see what they're experiencing, seeing what they've gone through, seeing everything about them, and not just what is to be revealed just in a moment or in the instant or with the natural eye, and really allowing ourselves to dig deep into other people and understanding that we're all different, we all matter, and there's something significant in every person. So for me, compassion is all about understanding what's significant about this person, linking arms with somebody to pull out their significance. It's really about being able to go on a journey with people, and being compassionate is all about, like I said, it's about sharing. It's about coming in sync with somebody. But yeah, compassion is really putting yourself. We hear the term all the time, like put yourself in my shoes or put yourself in their shoes, But really embracing the reality of like putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Yes, you may not understand everything that they've gone through. No, you may not feel it the way that they felt it. But the least we can do in leadership and just in life in general, with understanding people and being a kind human being, a decent human being, the least we can do is be compassionate and allow ourselves to step into someone else's shoes, shift our perspective, allow ourselves to see things through someone else's eyes, and open ourselves up to different viewpoints and different vantage points, because we're all different, but we all can find something that we have in common, and we can work together through compassion.
Wow. That's so good. Okay, so there were about a million things that you brought up in there, and several we're going to discuss. But I like what you talk about is shifting perspectives. So when I think about leaders, one of the first things I think about with a leader is that they have vision.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, a leader without vision is taking you nowhere, because they don't see anything.
Absolutely.
Right? And so to be able to see your vision from the perspective of another person who is now connected to your vision, because you have opted to link arms with them. I love that visual that you give. You've decided to link arms with them, and you're leading them with this vision, but you have to be able to see it from the way they walk.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that sometimes as leaders, we get so caught up in leading and say, I want to show you where to go. I'm the leader, that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we don't see what the walk is like for other people to get to that destination.
Yep. Yeah.
And if we are ever going to be effective with them, if we're
Mm-hmm.
ever going to lead them in the way they need to be led, if we're ever going to lead them into their own levels of leadership, because in my mind, always a leader should always be begetting leaders. So I think about biblical terms, such and such beget, that beget, that beget. If you're a leader that's not begetting another leader, I think we have a problem.
Absolutely.
I don't believe in power hoarding.
Mm-hmm.
And so to think about a compassionate leader, just simply from the aspect of the vision. If you see the vision and you are expressing this to others, you're supposed to be writing the vision and making it plain so others can read it and run it. If they can't read it because of the way you wrote it, like it makes no sense to them because you're not writing it in their language, because you don't understand their perspective. They don't speak that language. You don't learn them.
Mm-hmm.
How can you lead them?
Yeah. And you miss out on so much of people. Like you miss out on so many characteristics and attributes of the people that you're leading when you don't take the time to come into that perspective shift with them. Like if I don't get, as a leader, if I don't get to know you, someone who is following me, someone who is helping me with this vision, if I don't get to know you, I don't know what your gifts are. I don't know what your talents are. I don't know what your strengths are. I don't know what your weaknesses are. So if I have this vision and I'm just handing it to you, but I haven't, and I haven't conformed it even to what works best for you, not to completely change the vision or alter the vision, but giving it to them in a package that they can actually use, a package that they can actually receive, because everyone is different. And so you can't give it to everybody the same way. That's just like, just with food, we think about just being a baby and an adult, I may give you an apple and I can give it to you whole. A toddler, I'm gonna have to cut it up. An infant, I gotta puree that thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the same thing. We're not altering what it is, but the delivery is different.
Right.
And so when we get to know people, we understand that the levels are different, that people's understanding is different, people's perspective is completely different. And so that helps us as leaders to be able to deliver the vision in a way that suits everybody else, because we want everybody to be effective. Like you said, we want to be God leaders. And so at the end of the day, if we're ineffective as leaders, then the people who are under us, as they come up into another leadership capacity, they're going to be ineffective. And it's going to be a continual cycle. And that's why we see it, in jobs. And I don't have much experience with jobs because I only had one job before I started doing cosmetology, but I worked at a grocery store. And so you see it so much with that, with managers and supervisors. And it's like, you have one person that's up here, and if they're not a great leader, the person underneath them, not so great, the whole team is a mess, because it's like from the head, everything flows from the head, And so it's so important for us to understand everybody's story, everybody's attributes. Like I said, their weaknesses, their strengths, because we got to be able to get things done. There's a purpose, there's an assignment to be fulfilled. And as leaders, you got to understand that. And so giving it to people the way that they can digest it, and like you said, that they can write it out and they can run with it. Everybody doesn't speak the same language. Some people might want to walk. Some people might want to run. Some people might want to jog with it. You know what I mean? Somebody might want to speed walk with it. You never know what people may want to do with it, but you got to set it up for them to succeed so that the success can be a continual process.
Right. So I'll ask you this question. When you look at yourself and your leadership journey, what does success look like for you?
For me personally, success for me is, and it may sound vague as I say it, but I'll tap into it a little bit. But literally, success with me, and we were talking about this a little bit, but success for me is literally being able to look back and see that every move that I have made has been in alignment with God's will for my life. Like, period. Like, that is success for me, because I can have goals, I can have dreams, but if they're not in alignment with God's will, it's pointless. And so for me, success is knowing that I did what God told me to do, whether I liked it or not, whether I wanted to do it or not, whether or not it was something that I, favored, or if it was a favorable experience. That's what success looks like for me, because I have tried to do things my way so many times. I've tried to go after certain things that look like success, or felt like success, or sounded like success, and I've even had times where I had to battle those insecurities about, like, oh, well, what God's telling me to do don't really line up with what everybody else looks like, what everyone else says is success, or, my life looks so different than everybody else. I see this person over here, they got all these degrees. I see this person over here, they're, making six figures at their job. Like, and so it's like, for me, every time I try to pin my success to those specific things, it never worked. It always felt there was no fuel there. I realized that in order to be successful, you have to have motivation. You have to have fuel. And for me, the only thing that fuels me is being in alignment with God's will, because I understand that there's no grace outside of that. There's nothing. It's nothing really going on that I want to experience outside of God's will. So that's what success is to me. Doing what God tells me to do, because it's not always fun. It's not always great. So when I can look back and be like, wow, Quierra, like, you were obedient. Wow, you really submitted your life to that. You really submitted your time to that. That is what success is for me. I hope that answered your question.
Oh, honey, it did. And see, what I love is that when you answer questions, you bring up 88 more questions in my mind. It's a great thing. But I actually want to go back. So we're being successful. We're being compassionate through this, lens of seeing, how we can get people to the vision through their own perspective. It's something about, kind of like melding into people and feeling what they feel and seeing what they see, understanding their experiences, so that you can speak the language that they can understand, where they may want to jog or run or power walk to this goal along with you. But in order to do that, there are certain things that have to be in place. And you use a phrase that actually takes me back to a very, I won't say a very old television show, because it ain't that old. Let me take that back. It's not old. But there was an episode of The Cosby Show, which is still, the show itself, no matter what other things have happened, the show itself was life-changing. And it created a perspective for many African American families, but also just, anybody who watched the show. It created a perspective about what family life could be like and what success could look like. But I remember there was an episode and they were talking about Professor Capel, and they were planning Professor Capel's, I guess, her retirement party, retiring from Hillman. And it was Claire and maybe four of her college buddies had been selected to be on this committee, and they started talking about how they were her favorite student, and they all thought that they were her favorite student, no matter what their grade was. She told them they were her favorite student. But they started talking about, her phrase and how she wore this hat. And it was one of the ladies, she was like, I had a dream about her. And she said, every time I would rip her hat off, it'd be another hat under it. And then rip it off, it'd be another hat under it. And she said, because she was, every time she ripped her hat off, she was like, dig deeper, dig deeper. Apparently, this was a phrase she said to them all the time in class. You need to dig deeper. And I do believe Professor Capel was probably an English professor. And so every time they wrote something or they thought about something, they would discuss something, and she would tell them, dig deeper. And you brought this phrase up when we're talking about digging deep into the lives of others to really learn them enough for you to, you said to share in their joys, to share in their suffering. This is part of compassion. Digging deep into somebody's life can be a very risky thing. And as a leader, I think about boundaries. I remember being a school principal, and it was because I just come fresh off of being a teacher and being well, actually not being a teacher even, but being a school administrator and as an assistant principal even was a different level than as a principal. So as an assistant principal, I feel like I had a little bit more leeway. As a principal, you got to distinguish some boundaries, which is difficult for me because I'm a connector.
Mm-hmm.
I like to connect people and I like to connect to people, and I'm very relational. So trying to find these boundaries was difficult for me. Like I don't do hard boundaries with people unless I have to. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I can do a hard boundary with you, you messed up. but but even in that, finding these boundary lines while digging deep into these people who you are leading. How do you do this deep digging? Gracious, that wasn't coming out right. This deep digging. And then also, when you're digging, how do you also draw a boundary so there aren't certain lines crossed in that
Mm-hmm.
process?
Mm-hmm. So I would say that it's all about how you initially go into it. As a leader, we have to already have those boundaries established in our mind and always have the end goal in mind. Don't ever just go into it just allowing compassion to completely blind you, because we can allow our emotions to blind us and all of those things. And so while being compassionate, still using wisdom, still being discerning, and putting those boundaries up from the jump, because it's always harder to backtrack, because once you get all the way in there, it's always harder to pull yourself back out or to backtrack out of relation and connection with people. And so for me, my mindset in leading compassionately is always in coaching and sending. Like, I'm not here to just find out about you and come into this place with you so that you can stay here.
Right.
As I'm learning about you, as you're telling me and showing me more aspects of who you are, we're not here to stay here. I tell people all the time, whether it's in the leadership capacity or friendship capacity, don't invite me to a pity party. Don't invite me to a pity party. Do not invite me to a pity party. And so a lot of times when we are digging deep with people, you may get caught up on something that's really hard for them or really emotional. And it's like, that's great because, yes, it needs to be dealt with. Things need to be dealt with. But this boundary is being set here because I'm going to let you know that there's levels to this. Like, we're going to get here. But also, as we dig in, we coming right back up. Like, we got a shovel. Like, we not just digging and digging and digging and digging. We digging and we throwing it out. Like, we coming back up for this. Like, we got to come up for air. Like, I'm not diving into this bottomless pit or bottomless hole of just stuff. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's having that mindset initially that I am here to get to know you, but not for us to be friends, for me to coach you and help you to come out of this place or whatever, or pull out of you whatever it is that needs to be pulled out of you in that moment, and understanding that as a leader, I'm preparing you to be a leader. And so also understanding that, let me show you how to do this with boundaries. Let me show you how to effectively communicate and effectively get to know, other team members or whatever the, setting is. Let me show you how to do this so that when it's your turn, you can do it as well. And so, like I said, it's all about having that initial thought, like letting yourself know, like, there's a purpose for this. Like, there's an end goal. Like, we're not going to this place to stay here. We're going to this place to get what we need, and we're coming back out.
Right. And I love that you say, I'm not going in here to be your friend. Now, I will tell you this, leaders, I want you to understand, there may be friendships that come out of your fellowship. Don't be afraid of that. But don't feel like you have to befriend everybody in your fellowship in order to get to know them. Relationships are on multiple levels. Like Quierra said, there's levels to this. Relationships are on multiple levels. And even in this deep digging that you're going to have to do, don't get so caught up. I love that you said don't be blinded by compassion. Don't get so caught up in their lives that at this point, I know all this, so we must be close. No, we're not close. We're not tight. No, we're not. I just found out a lot of things. And so now when I am working, from my coaching lens as a leader, then now it's time for me to coach you. Okay, so this is where I know you are. Sometimes you got to figure out where their rock bottom is.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea of not, diving into this endless abyss. No, that's not what I'm here for. And if that's what it is, then I'm not who you need to talk to right now. You probably need a therapist, because therapy and Jesus is a very good, powerful thing. Go find a professional. I am not that. I am not a psychologist. I am not a psychiatrist. That is not me. I may have studied some psychology, but I don't have a degree in that. Go see somebody who can help you on a regular basis. But
Mm-hmm.
if I can get to this rock bottom point, like what is your bottom? Oh, that's where it is. Oh, this is, and I don't even like, I mean, it's your bottom, but it's your foundation. What is your foundational thought about this? What is your foundational spot? Like, where are you? It's your most authentic and raw self, not the fake and the funk. Like, we have now unearthed all the surface stuff.
Right.
Oh, this is where you really are.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Now we can work from there. And it's not
Absolutely.
about me being your best friend, even though we may talk daily. I have several people who were and are in my fellowship that we are not ace boon coons. We have a very good relationship, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not besties. And that is exactly how it's supposed to be. I can
Yeah.
talk to you, you can confide in me, we can discuss, but you're not coming to me for everything. It's going to be some stuff I get surprised about when other people tell me later. Well,
Right.
did you know? Girl, no, I didn't. Well, I'm glad I didn't know. I'm glad God get shielded me from that. I did not need to know that at the time. I don't really need to know it now, but now that I do, I can't unknow it. So here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's you just got to get to that point. I just love the idea of digging deep. I mean, and not being afraid to find out some stuff,
Yeah, for
because
sure.
you got to get past the surface.
Yes.
And if
Yeah.
nobody would allow you to get past the surface with them, I need you to check you.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about you that is so boundarific. Like there's boundaries and then there's boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a wall up.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to understand you got to give to get. You, as much as we are digging deep in other people, they want to see beyond the surface in you too as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
How easy or difficult has it been for you to expose yourself? Find that level of vulnerability. I talked to Princess Johnson about this a few weeks ago. She talked about being a vulnerable leader. You got to be vulnerable at some point in time. How hard or easy is that for you?
I would say for me, I feel like that I am a pretty vulnerable person. But it hasn't always been that way. And I think that even in that, extending compassion to yourself is what opens up, I feel, that vulnerability. And so for me, it's easier because I'm learning, and when I say learning, I mean learning still, how to be compassionate with myself. So as I am compassionate with myself, I am allowing those walls and those boundaries and those things that I have up, those preconceived notions, those insecurities, all of those things to come down so that I can be vulnerable. I think that even back to the boundaries thing, I think that I actually have had to learn more so how to create those boundaries in my vulnerability, because I'm the type of person that if I'm in this and we're in this thing, then you can have as much of me as you pursue. So it's like, I'm an open book. I don't have anything to hold back, but I also realize that everybody doesn't deserve every part of you. And so learning that in itself has really been the part that has been hard for me. It was never really hard to be vulnerable. It's never been hard to be vulnerable. Now that I've learned how to extend compassion to myself here lately, I've been having to actually learn how to set those boundaries for myself so that I'm not as vulnerable, and knowing when to be vulnerable, when not to be, with who to be vulnerable with, and who not to be, and then, that goes back to just having that discernment. It's a lot of times where I'm in conversations where I am working through things with certain people and helping people work through things, and I have to take a step back and be like, okay, God, like, how much of myself do you want me to give in this situation or to this person? And so really just using discernment to know when to do it and when not to. And like I said, how much of myself to give, because everybody can't handle all of your vulnerability. Everybody doesn't know what to do with that, and so you got to be careful. It's not that you are holding anything back because you are prideful or you're even ashamed of certain things. It's more so just understanding that there's a place and a time for everything, and somebody that that you're leading in one season, if you are continually leading them, there may be things that that are able to unfold, that as you unfold in the journey with them, your vulnerability can unfold with them as well. But that comes from that coaching, and just the coaching and the maturing that they may have to go through in order to really be able to even receive those certain levels of vulnerability from you as a leader.
Oh, that is so good. Not everyone can handle your vulnerability because they don't know what to do with it. I think that's where some people get their feelings hurt. Where people find their business out in the street. Because people don't know what to do. They get this thing, which in itself is a gift. I mean, you're sharing part of yourself. You're giving part of yourself to them, your journey to them. And they get this gift in a box, and they're like, oh, it's so heavy. Oh, or it smells so good. Oh my goodness. Or it's like juicy like steak. And what do I do with this? Oh, I want to share it. No, it was a gift for you.
Yep.
It was a gift for you. And because you don't know how to handle it, you squander it. And then you find yourself not having the opportunity to get a gift like that again.
Absolutely.
And I think that I think that's going to release some leaders who may be watching today or on the replay. And if you're watching the replay, please throw up a little hashtag replay so we know that you were here. But some leaders, I think, especially those who are attempting to be a compassionate leader, who are servant leaders, who lead with this high level of vulnerability, sometimes find themselves in this place where they get burnt. Somebody takes that gift, they squander it, they spill it all over the place or whatever they decide to do with it, and they mishandle the gift.
Yeah.
And then now you have to play this game with yourself. Absolutely. Do I choose to ever be vulnerable again? Oh no, compassionate. Well, I bet I will not listen to that mess again. I bet I did, and they go to this extreme, or they're like, well, you know what? I got hurt, but you know what? Hurt is okay, and I'm just gonna be hurt again. No, boo. One, learn the lesson.
Yes.
Learn the lesson. Yes. This person has now shown you who they are. At this point, maybe their foundational spot where they are right now is at a foundational place where they can't handle that type of thing. They've shown you who they are. Believe them the first time. That's what Maya Angelou said. The first time, believe them. And then you make a decision. Are you the person to now coach them and help them in their maturity journey, so that maybe later they could get a gift again? Right. Or do you outsource them?
Yeah.
I'm apparently not the leader for you. Because you may recognize within yourself that I am not there. I do not have that level of compassion yet. You have put my business out in the street, and I have nothing else that I can give you right now. I am not there. And when the Lord brings me there, maybe we can talk again. But Jesus has not landed on my spirit in that way. Know yourself, right? This is a piece of knowing you. I know where I am right now. Where I am right now, probably I could coach somebody through it. Where I was 10 years ago.
Right.
Ma'am, sir, I am not the person for you. I got somebody else you can talk to, but I am not it.
Right. Yeah.
because I knew me, and I knew me then.
Right.
Even
Right.
even as I was learning lessons, but but it's something. All it took was for me to get burnt one time.
Mm-hmm.
But in that, I had to continue to grow myself. Okay,
Yeah.
so I got burnt. Where did I go wrong? What
Right.
signs did I not see? Because the
Mhm.
signs were there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
as a leader, you got to have vision, but you got to be able to see.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a vision and still be blinded by so many things. You could be blinded by compassion. You could be blinded by love. Maybe you fell in love with somebody on your job and they got real cute. They your boo thing now. Or that you've been blinded by burnt. You've been burnt before. So now I got this vision, but I can't do nothing with it because I can't see beyond all these
Right.
things.
Right.
You got to be able to see.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't see until you learn. And that learning, you should be growing.
Yes.
And then, being compassionate, you're gonna be a compassionate at a different level.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to deal with some things that understand that some people just aren't ready,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Absolutely. And you don't want to put anything in someone's hands that you know they're going to fumble. And that's why it's important to know where people are and what their levels are, because also as a leader, these are people that you're responsible for. These are people that you are being held accountable for in any aspect, any arena, wherever you are as a leader, you're responsible for these people. And so you have to understand that knowing them and knowing their levels and knowing what they can and cannot handle is important, because if you put something in someone's hand that you knew that they couldn't handle, you could mess up future opportunities for them. Like you said, people become scarred. People, experience things that they don't necessarily have to experience, because a lot of times leaders aren't discerning and they put too much weight too soon, for it. And then also a lot of times as leaders and as visionaries, you see the best in somebody. You may see the best in people. You may see their potential. You may see everything that's inside of them, but you don't understand the timing that it takes to pull all of that out. And so it's like,
Hello,
yes,
nobody.
you may see that in that person right now, but if it's not time for them to operate in that capacity, you set them up for failure.
Mm-hmm.
Set them up for failure. And it's like, you don't want to do that. It's just going back to the food analogy. Like you're not going to give an infant an apple slice. It's like, yes, you understand that, yes, they may be able to eat it at some point eventually as they grow and mature, but when you do, you setting them up for failure. So you're giving people something that's going to make them choke. You're throwing somebody a ball when they're not ready to catch it. They're going to fumble it. And so it's like, as leaders, a lot of times, and we see it happen all the time, like leaders setting people up for failure, and not even intentionally or not out of spite or anything like that, but just out of lack of discernment and discerning the proper growth process and cycle for the people that they're leading.
Right. Well, I mean, and I say so: lack of discernment, lack of knowing the growth cycle, but also lack of patience.
Yes, yes,
You
yes,
you you have, I mean, some of us as leaders forget how long it took us to get to where we are, even if it seems like it was a short amount of time. So I think about the fact that I interviewed for my first principal position at the age of 30. And so I got it like days after my birthday. So I turned 31. So I think about the fact that by the age of 31, I had matriculated through a portion of the educational career cycle. I've been a teacher, an assistant principal, and principal, and I graduated from college, I think it was 22. So between 22 and 30, I matriculated a career.
Mhm.
Like some people, that is their career cycle. Like if they can hit that, they have done it. Like, and it
Yeah.
takes some people 20, 30 years. I did it from 22 to 30. And that was a pretty quick cycle, but my goodness gracious, all the lessons that I learned.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
I had to get my feelings hurt. I had to cry. I had to go through, I had to be hated. I mean, I was hated by people. And this was well before I was a principal, and it was not even by like teachers, I mean like students or their families. I was hated by other people around me. Like, hate. I needed to know what that felt like, so when I felt it again, I would recognize it and I'd know how to handle myself in it and
Yeah.
lead through it. I mean, I went through all kinds of things, being wrongly treated, and how do you deal with that in my career, in my
Yeah.
profession, getting my feelings hurt, somebody slamming and handing me my hat about something that I did not see to read, and then educating me and taking that education and applying it. Like, I had to do so much in that 8 years to get to that fast track, and I
Mhm.
wasn't even trying to fast track,
Yep.
but God had a plan. I had to live all that in that time because I needed to be done with that part of my life by a certain time to do the next thing.
Yeah.
But even in that, everything was a lesson.
Mhm.
But I had to, that taught me that even though my process was quicker, I had to understand that if a person had not been through the process, even if it
Mhm.
may not have looked exactly like mine, but it was certain things that had to process. Maybe theirs wasn't as quick, but I knew, oh, you haven't done this and this. Oh, you're not ready yet. Oh, now you know what? Let me provide you an opportunity to go experience this. Oh,
Mhm.
I know it's scary. I know. And just I'll talk you through it, but I need you to go do it on your own
Yes.
because there's something in you I see. And
Mhm.
because I see that, I know if you don't have this experience, you're going to be waiting on this experience.
Yep.
And so understanding that I had to be patient. There were some people who were tracking even faster than I was
Mhm.
because they were just going through it and they were learning and you could see it.
Yeah.
But it was some people, it's like the tortoise and the hare. And
Absolutely.
it's okay to be the tortoise.
Yep.
It doesn't mean you're not going to win.
Mhm.
You're just not going to get there that fast. And that's okay. It wasn't your time. Timing is everything.
Everything. Yeah.
If you get there too fast, you will get your feelings hurt because it won't be there.
Right.
Or you weren't ready for it. It's a horrible feeling to get to something you weren't ready for.
Yes. Yeah.
I was looking forward to I wanted it so bad. And then I got there and oh, it hurt.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Yep.
So patience. Patience. And my daughter told me they talked about this Sunday at church and grace.
Yes.
A
Absolutely.
combination of patience and grace will be life changing.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, so whew, we're running, and the time is running. So I do want to talk about um I'm trying to make a decision between looking at people's experiences and this journey. I think I'm gonna go with journeying.
Okay.
So one of the things you brought up was journeying with others. Can you think of a time, whether it can be in your official leadership capacity or not, where you have been walking on a journey with someone and either got to a place where you couldn't or refused to walk anymore,
Mm.
or the journey became your own?
Hmm. Okay. That's good. That's really good. So I would say, wow, yeah. So definitely the latter, the journey became my own. So I've had, certain times where I've walked a journey with someone else and then I just couldn't walk anymore. But it let me speak to both of those if I can. So where I will be walking with someone. I have been walking with someone and I just couldn't walk anymore. And it wasn't because I didn't feel like walking anymore. It wasn't because I didn't have the desire to walk anymore, but it was literally like God saying, all right, it's time to let them go. Like it's time to let them do this. Like, because at this point, your presence in this journey with them has been beneficial, but if you take one more step, you're going to be a crutch.
Mm.
If you take one more step, they're going to miss out on something that I'm trying to do through them and in them. And so there have been times where that has been the story, and like I said, it wasn't because I didn't want to walk with them before anymore, and it was hard to even let go. And that was something that, and even in that's still a journey that became my own, with learning how to let go of people when the time is up for you to walk with them, and um learning how to see what God is doing in someone else's life, and not getting so caught up and feeling like, I think we have to take a step back and not be so personal, because a lot of times when we're walking with somebody and we see improvement and we see growth, we can kind of get a big head and think, oh, like I had something to do with that. And God is like, no, I was using you, but in reality, it was just me. Like, you were just a vehicle for me to, like, I was using you. You're a vessel and I was using you, but go ahead and remove yourself from this situation so that this person, and so that you can see that it was really me the whole time. And so, I love that, and it is a hard thing. It's a hard thing to step away. It's a hard thing to feel like, especially depending on what the journey was like, and depending on if you got in on the ground floor of that thing, you know what I mean? And how much time you have invested in all of those things, all of that matters. And a lot of times it's hard to pull away from it, especially when there's almost like a fear of like, oh my God, like if I stop walking with this person, are they gonna, regress? Like if I stop walking with this person, like, are they gonna be able to continue to walk on this journey? But and even in that, it's like, even though I'm stepping away, still being mindful, still extending grace, and still, being compassionate, and now turning that compassion that I once had to walk with them to the compassion that I now have to, although my presence, I'm not there with you. Now that compassion is leading me to pray for you to continue on that journey and be successful and experience everything that you should experience. And then also walking with someone and well, it's kind of the same thing, two different experiences, but kind of the same thing is when, it's been times where I've been walking with someone and they kind of drifted away. And so having to do a work in myself and understanding that, I actually coming to myself and like making sure, reevaluating, like, the way that I dealt with them and everything like that, making sure that I was checking myself, because I'm always trying to self-reflect. Like I'm always checking my intentions. I like to be a very, self-aware person, because, I don't want to just be out here acting crazy, doing crazy stuff, saying crazy stuff, ruining people's lives, So I'm just always trying to be very self-aware. And so I use that journey and that process to come back to really allow God to do a work in me and deal with anything that I may have done or said. And, not in, even in some situations, it may not have been anything negative, but it could have been that I gave too much, or, like I said, became a crutch for somebody. And so it could have been that I got in the way even of their healing or their growth, or whatever the case may be. And so really just learning from those things, learning about those boundaries, learning. So definitely been in those situations where the journey that I've walked with someone else becomes a journey for me of learning, because I just feel like there's always a lesson in everything. No matter how much help you think you've given to somebody else, it's always something else for you to learn, as a leader. No matter how high and mighty you think you are, no matter, how many people you think are, quote unquote, under you, whatever the case may be, there's always something for you to learn. And the moment that you stop thinking that there's anything for you to learn, you're not effective anymore, because we're always learning, we're always growing, because even a leader has to be led. Like, you have to be led as well. And so understanding that we have to always be open to lessons and being led into our own self-discovery and our own journeys, just as individuals, taking off that title and understanding that you're still a person, just like the person that you are leading is still a person.
I love that. Take off your title and remember that you are still a person.
Yes.
Ooh, how hard that is for some people. And so I think about, and then we're gonna wrap up. So I think about, doing these pageants,
Mhm.
in my current life. Having the opportunity to see all these people who get these crowns and titles, and then seeing what they do with it, or lack thereof,
Yeah.
aside from wearing the crown and having the title. And it just annoys the life out of me. Like, it's like, oh, why did you do that? Why
Mhm.
did you take that? But I mean, I understand everybody's journey is their journey, but I'm like, and people are like, well, you only got this title, so what are you going to do with it? The exact same thing I would have done with the other title. I'm not going to do this. The whole point, I think, of God having me in this season is so that I can exemplify something in me that comes from Him that will encourage other people. One of the hashtags I use a lot of times is that there's still time. There's still time for you to do whatever it is that God has called you to do. If He's giving you the opportunity to breathe again today, there's still time. And I think that when people get to my age, and I'm not going to say what it is right now, but when people get to my age, you feel like you should have accomplished certain things by this point.
Mhm.
Some people are like, I should have been married by now. I should have had kids by now. I should have made this career goal by now. And if you haven't, then you feel a certain kind of way like, well, I can't. Well, if God says you can, then I bet you can. And, just like I wouldn't have thought that I would be a pageant queen at this point in my life. I got kids, and, my kid was being a pageant queen. And I'm like, I didn't think that this was for me, but God said otherwise, because there's still time. And if you're going to believe that and you operate in that, then, if it's still time for me to be a beauty queen, then it's still time for me to do whatever else God has for me. Leaders, there's still time. There's still time for you to do whatever it is that you have to do, but you need to learn the lessons along the way so that you can have your time at the right time. So if you're not, if the thing is here and you're supposed to learn the lessons all the way to here, so when you got here it will work out, and then you ignored all these lessons, watch God move that thing, and you're gonna be mad because you saw where it was.
Yes.
Matter of fact, it may still be sitting right there. You interview for it, don't get it because you didn't learn the lessons. But
Mhm.
if it's still for you, it just moved down the street. Whatever that opportunity was, it's still there. But you got to now go catch up to the new time of it,
Mhm.
and don't let that thing really pass you by because God chooses otherwise.
Yeah. That's true. Or don't let you show up to it, but you didn't pay attention to the journey and you ignored the journey. And it may not catch up to you right there in the moment after you got that platform or you got you out there, but it's gonna catch up to you and you're gonna be
Yeah.
embarrassed. We embarrass ourselves when we ignore the journey, when we ignore the process, we're the only ones who end up embarrassed in the long run. That's
And I
it.
love that you said, and it may not happen at the moment. You may get it. You may get what it was. But
Right.
woo, baby, when the fullness of that thing happens and you're not ready for it,
I'm telling you, that weight will take you out. It'll take you out.
that is not a pretty thing. Woo, my. Okay, last thing, Quierra, if there is one last thing you could share with the people today about being a compassionate leader, what would that be?
Can it be something that I already shared and just reiterate it, or do you want
Absolutely.
to? I would say that be compassionate with yourself first. Learn compassion for yourself. You cannot be a compassionate leader. You cannot be a compassionate person if you have not first learned to be compassionate with yourself. And even if you think that you're being compassionate, there's always more aspects even to that compassion. So when you tap into that for yourself, you can really operate in the fullness of that thing. I believe in operating in the fullness, abundance, all of that. Like, I so you got to get it for yourself so that you can give it. You got to be able to have it inside of you. You can't give anything that you don't already have. So in order for you to extend compassion to anyone else as a leader, you must first extend that compassion for yourself and to yourself.
Absolutely. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so I know that people out there like, oh my goodness, I love Quierra. How can I follow her? How can they follow you, Quierra?
Yes. So on Facebook, I am Quierra McDowell. And on Instagram, I believe I'm at Quierra McDowell there as well. My website is quierranicole.com. You can find out a little bit more about me. Also, you can purchase my book there. You can link up with me. I love to talk to people. I love to chat. So, if you ever want to talk, if you ever want to just link up and chat, I'm all for it. I love it. So yeah, those are the places you can find me on Instagram, Quierra McDowell, Facebook, Quierra McDowell. I make it pretty easy for people to find me. So, no, not a lot of extra stuff going on in the names.
Well, look, we appreciate it because if you all did not already know, just from our conversation today, Quierra is a person to follow, a person who is someone to learn from. She's an amazing leader. She is an amazing person. So get your follow on, check out what she's doing. Please, so your church is Revival Now Global
Yes.
Church.
Yes.
I didn't know it was RNG, and I had to make sure I put the right words with the letters. So check her and her amazing husband Kendall out, the pastors of that church, virtual, online. Revival Now Global is on Facebook and
Instagram. Yes. Yes.
See, I pay attention, but I'm you can see the lack of confidence in me saying exactly what it is because I just follow Quierra everywhere. Wherever she is, I just follow. But once again, Quierra, I am so grateful for your yes to come on today. I am honored by your sharing of your story. And I'm also honored just to be able to see the portions of your journey I've been able to see.
Yes.
It has been a beautiful one.
Always a pleasure to be with you. Always.
All right, everyone. As I promised, I told you for 52 weeks I'm going to bring the heat. And here in week 33, once again, did not disappoint. I told you I wouldn't, and I'm not. I'm not going to disappoint you. I'll be right back here next week for week 34 of Leadership Live with Dr. Renita and friends with another friend. Just be also ready. Have your notes, your pen, your paper ready because you're going to get some amazingness. Quierra, thank you again. Everyone out there, I love you, love you, love you. And as always, I encourage you to keep your leadership all the way live. I'll see you next week. Bye.